So today I thought we'd do a bit of a preview going into next week and just things to talk about and things to be watching out for. So I hope you enjoy this Sunday video. I know you guys always enjoy a Sunday video getting you ready for the week ahead, so I hope it's useful. So the S&P 500 obviously came off a fantastic week last week. You can see here the S&P 500 was up 2.5%, and that really lifted the whole market. Everything was up last week. It was a really good week in the stock market. Also, the UK was also dragged up a little bit with this as well, which was really significant to see. And we saw the UK as well getting excited, as the US did, off the inflation data. The inflation data came in at 3%. Technically, it actually came in at 2.97%. So technically, we are already at the 2% range, but we'll class it as 3% because we round it up. So it was at the 3% range, and obviously the US market got excited about this, the UK market got excited by this. It needed something to get excited by, and maybe a glimmer of hope that potentially one day the UK market can get there. But obviously the whole market and the economy and everyone's excited about this news. Now, I actually thought the Fed were going to be setting out their interest rates this week. I got it wrong. It's the week after. It's on the 25th to 26th. On the 26th, they'll bring it out. So obviously, we'll have to wait another couple of days before we get the Fed rate. That's probably one of the big things that everyone's going to be looking forward to and seeing what the Fed are doing, because obviously everyone is kind of expecting here the Fed is to go back to hiking up at a slower rate. But if the Fed come out and then pause again, that'll be a big disconnect from what they're saying to what they're doing, and that would confirm that they're kind of playing the hard game a little bit, and then actually making them sure that they're not under pressure or giving them room to actually push them interest rates up. So we'll be seeing what the update. This can change really rapid. So I was going to share what the current forecasts are for the increase or the pause then, but because they can change so rapidly, I thought we'll leave that to next week. But that leaves us on to earnings. Earnings is going to be the key driver this week, and everybody's going to be staring at the companies and going, is there any weakness starting to show in these companies' earnings, or are they doing okay? That's what everyone's going to be looking forward to. And obviously, I should have put this on here, and I am just going to add it in really quickly. JP Morgan, I don't know if you saw these guys' numbers on Friday, but oh my, these were so impressive numbers from JP Morgan. And you can look here, Q2 EPS of $4.37. The average estimate was $3.80. Unbelievable. Adjusted revenue of $42.4 billion versus $38.9 billion, the consensus. And that was rose from $39.3 billion in the prior quarter and $31.6 billion in the year ago period. They went from $42 billion in revenue to $31 billion in revenue from a year ago. Unbelievable from a bank to be putting in these sort of numbers, which was scary impressive. So got me a little bit more interested once again, looking at a couple of bank stocks going, well, if JP Morgan are doing these numbers, there's going to be a few other companies that maybe start bringing out these numbers. And I'll tell you, JP Morgan is a stock I really wish I bought when it was sitting in that like $110 not so long ago. But hey, really impressive numbers from them guys. So everyone's going to be staring at the banks and seeing the banks still going to be doing okay. Obviously, Monday's a little bit quieter, but when you go on to Tuesday, obviously you got the likes of Bank of America, Charles Schwab, Morgan Stanley that are going to be reporting, and same again on the Tuesday after close. And then really when we get into Wednesdays, when we actually start getting them more into the individual companies, and that's when it actually starts really picking up into next week, because the week after is when we get the likes of Meta and Apple and everything like that. But this week there'll still be some interesting companies that everybody will be looking at, like ASML. Everybody will be staring at ASML and going, what are they saying? What are the numbers they're kind of coming out with? And also TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductors, and also seeing what the kind of chips plays are, what's the kind of AI boom, what's kind of going on there. And I'll also be looking at them from an alpha wave kind of point of view and see what's going on there. ASML, really high quality company. We actually covered it on Stock Request not so long ago, and it's a company that trades at premium but deserves to trade at premium. So if that premium does come a cheap premium, it could be really worth checking into, see what's going on there. Obviously then we'll get on to Wednesday after close, where everybody was staring at these two big dogs that are going to be reporting, Tesla and Netflix. So Netflix is a stock that got killed in 2022. Join the club. I mean, how many stocks got killed in that time frame? Has recovered a lot of it though since then. And since that time frame, the stock was up over 100%. I think actually from the bottom to the top, you're about 144%. Now at $441, the 52 close $174. And I've got to say, I'm not a big fan of Netflix, but even myself was looking at Netflix at $174 back then, and I think it went all the way down to like 12 times earnings, and it was like a meta point of view where it was like, I'm not a Netflix fan, but even me that's not a Netflix fan can see this at 12 times earnings going, this is actually really tempting. Like, I'd just buy it and then sell out because I'm not really a big believer in it. But, you know, you shouldn't be selling, you know, a stock. Every single stock has a buy price. And that was getting towards the buy price where I'm not a number one fan, but I know that's a stupid value and I should have bought it really. But hey, never mind. There was a lot of opportunities to be buying in 2022. So everybody who's looking at Netflix, I mean, looking at the numbers, they look quite easy to beat. I mean, year ago EPS, $3 too. You can see here that on the average estimates, it's $2.84. I mean, that looks like a pretty easy number for them to kind of come in with here. Obviously, when you look at sales growth, 3.8% sales growth as well. I think that could, you know, when you think about the higher prices and everything like that, I think they should achieve something like that. So, I mean, it looks like the bar for earnings, well, especially for Netflix, has been set quite low. So, I mean, we should see, you know, numbers come in with strong numbers, really, because the bar is being set so low, I would think. So, Netflix, I would expect them to do okay. It's a volatile one after earnings. It always moves a lot, so we'll see what happens. But looking at the numbers that the analysts have set out, it looks achievable, I would say. Obviously, Tesla then report, that's going to be a big one. I like to talk about Tesla, but the problem is that it's covered by so many YouTubers nowadays. I remember when I started covering Tesla in like 2018 on YouTube, nobody talks about Tesla, and now there's like channels all dedicated to Tesla and everything like that. So there's no point in me talking about it because everyone goes to the other channels for the views right now, and I don't talk about it enough to have that many shareholders of Tesla come watch my view on Tesla's earnings. But I'll be checking out their earnings for sure. It's a company that I like. I don't think it's a good valuation, but I like Tesla. I think they'll do very well in the long term. You know, obviously with the EV space that they are in and the solar plays, the charging stations, they should do, you know, obviously very, very well going forward. I do think at 82 times earnings, it's a rich valuation. Great company, rich valuation. That's what I'd say on that one. But I mean, obviously these guys have had once again, very much like a Netflix, they've had a very good run up. These guys held up quite well, but then did dip in 2023, but obviously then rebounded very well at the moment, and that's up 143%. I was looking at Tesla's numbers, and obviously when you look at the deliveries did come in really well, and obviously that's showing on the growth this quarter. They are expecting a strong quarter of 44% growth, which is actually funny because the next quarter at the moment, analysts are expecting that to slow down again to 16% growth. So yeah, that's obviously a standout quarter that they're expecting. But the big thing is when you look at the EPS. So if you look at the EPS here, they're actually expecting this quarter 0.76 with it. Well, that was a year ago, and the average estimate is 0.81. So they're expecting just a slight increase on the EPS. So obviously revenue growth is really high, but the EPS isn't growing that much, and obviously that's a lot to do with the price cuts. Obviously the price cuts, that's what everyone's going to be looking at. Revenue growth can have a lot of room, but everyone's going to be looking at that growth and going, but how much did you have to cut prices to get the growth? And that's what's probably going to move the stock, is what they kind of give around them sort of numbers and the price cuts. So that'd be interesting to see. Have they been able to grow while still not cutting too much back on the profitability, or has profitability been hit? That'll be really key to see with Tesla, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they say. Also, a bit on the UK front and stock that I own, Dietrace, I think, are going to report this week. There's no clarity on if they are going to do it, but if you do look at the financial calendar previously, it does say they're going to do a trading update mid-July, which would make sense because we are exactly in mid-July. And also, if you look at previously last year, they reported on the 19th of the 7th, 2022. So obviously that would suggest it would be on the Wednesday. We'll see what happens if they do report on the Wednesday. So I would expect a trading update from Dietrace this week. Now, Dietrace is really interesting because obviously I started buying this one. I think the cybersecurity is going to be massive in the next few years, and Dietrace is a relatively cheap cybersecurity company, especially when you look at the growth, and as well as that when you look at the free cash flow they throw off. It's a pretty good valuation, I feel like, for a really good area in the next 5-10 years. So I think you get an attractive valuation and also really good growth on a hot space. But the stock has been obviously absolutely devastated. Not as much recently, as you can see here. The stock has kind of really been flatlining since 2023. But from when it IPO'd, it did have a rally and then gave a lot of it back. For me personally, I started buying around, I think around this time here. So yeah, I would say I think I'm about 15% up on this position right now, but I'm being cautious because I think a lot of companies at the moment are pulling back spending with like advertising or infrastructure, something like investing in cybersecurity, which they shouldn't do, because you look at the cyber attacks that are out there at the moment. There's a lot of cyber attacks at the moment, but I think companies are pulling back on the spending. So I would expect Dietrace to probably report earnings this week, and I would expect them to probably bring some weak numbers out. So I am looking at this one thinking that I could get a dip in Dietrace this week. You never know. A lot of companies might have rebounded that spend since that early part of the year, and now, because the economy has settled down a little bit more, they might start putting money back into investing into the cybersecurity parts of the business, and maybe we'll see a surprise rally here. But I would be more expecting companies to pull back their spending and maybe see a drop here. So that's the one thing I'm really looking forward to a trading update, because I would like my Dietrace position to be probably double the size of what it is right now. So if there is the opportunity this week to get a dip on it, that would be great. At the same time, if it does go up, it goes up at the end of the day, and I own some shares. But that's also one that I'm definitely going to be watching this week. But apart from that, there's actually not too much on the UK front really. So yeah, there's a few interesting companies that report earnings this week, and that will probably be the direction of the market goes on how strong those earnings are. The company's earnings still holding up okay. Obviously, by the looks of it, the bar has been set quite low, so it should be quite achievable for them to do them numbers and then go look at all these companies that are beating their earning guidance, but realistically it is a bit lower than where it was a year ago. So we'll see what happens there, but it's going to be an interesting time, and that's probably what's going to dictate the market going forward anyway. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this little mini earnings preview going into next week, and a couple of things that I'm looking at, and hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you all next week ready for another week in the stock market. Catch you in a bit.